I've just filmed another video, and when I started filming this morning it was so bright and sunny in this office, and now the sky is disgusting. It's gone so grey and now the lighting is really bad, so thank you, sky. But I'm not here to complain about the weather. I'm here to talk about a book, a very good book that I liked a lot. So I recently posted my review of Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman, and I adored it so much. I love those books a lot. If you want to hear me ramble about why I love the book so much, then go and watch that review. I also have a review of Volumes 1 and 2 of Heartstopper too, so if you want to kind of binge both of those videos, then please do. Before I read Heartstopper, I had never read any of Alice Oseman's novels, and it's only recently that I've started reading her novels and really enjoying them. So the first one that I read, and I'm going to be talking about today, is I Was Born for This. I didn't know a lot about it before I went into it. I knew it was about a band and about the main character liking said band, but that's as much as I knew about it. I didn't know anything about the story, which I think is sometimes the best way to go into books, not knowing a lot about them, especially something like this. It's good to go into it without having a lot of kind of ideas about what the actual story's about. So I listened to it as an audiobook and I enjoyed it so much. Like, I didn't even realise before I started listening to it on SCRIBD that it's narrated by one of my favourite audiobook narrators, Aysha Kala. She narrated Flawed by Cecilia Ahern, and I listened to that first as an audiobook too, and I really liked it. A lot of the reason I liked it a lot was because of the narrator, and she reads I Was Born for This and Radio Silence, which is what I'm currently listening to, and I just really love her as a narrator. She's got such a nice voice to listen to. So yeah, it was a really good experience to listen to her reading this book. I'm going to turn the light on because it's gone so black in this room. Okay. The lighting has now massively changed, but that's fun. So, I Was Born for This is about... Oh my god, what's the main character's name? So, I Was Born for This is about Angel Rahimi, who is a teenager who has a big obsession with this band called The Ark. She is a massive fangirl for this band, and she has never seen them in concert. So she is going to London to visit her friend Juliet, who she's been talking to online for ages. Angel is really big in the online fandom for this band. Like, she is one of the people that everyone knows who she is. Like, she's a famous fan for her Tumblr account. And she started talking to her friend Juliet online, and she's going to London to go and meet Juliet for the first time and stay with her, and they're going to go to this concert and a meet and greet with the band. The story kind of follows her going to London and meeting Juliet for the first time, and how their relationship is when Juliet kind of randomly decides to introduce this guy called Mac, who is supposedly a big fan of the band, and that spirals into a big thing that I won't give any spoilers, but they go and see this band. And I kind of thought, when I started reading it, my guess about what the plot was going to be about was that they'll go and see this band, and then she keeps saying that she's like not interested in relationships at all. And I was thinking that if it's a typical kind of YA plot, that she's going to go and see this band and meet the band member that she loves and fall in love with him, and I thought it was going to be that sort of thing. I was pleasantly surprised that it's nothing like that. You do not expect this story to turn the way that it does, and I'm not going to give any spoilers. Like, this is a completely spoiler-free review because I don't want to ruin it, because for me, the story it kept going in directions that I was not expecting the story to go in, and that was just so cool. Like, the way that I had this expectation, because obviously I've never read an Alice Oseman novel before apart from Heartstopper, so I didn't know her writing style or what kind of story she writes. So I just had this really kind of general YA type idea of what this story could turn into, and it was not that in the slightest. It was so surprising, and I really, really enjoyed the way that the story, like the direction that the story goes in. So one of the reasons why I liked this book a lot is that it explores so many important themes, but without shoehorning them in. So it explores sexuality, and mental health is one of the biggest things in this book. Like, mental health is one of the big focuses in this book, especially in terms of how your mental health is affected when you are famous. So it focuses a lot on the band members and their kind of how their lives are impacted by being so famous. And it's really interesting, kind of, when you're a normal person that isn't famous in any way, it can be really interesting to read about the life of people that are famous and they have anything they could ever ask for. They have so much money, and you would think that that life would be perfect. You would think that it's kind of like this ideal life where you don't need to worry about anything because you have everything on a plate that you could possibly want. But this book does a really good job of exploring what actually happens when you do have a life completely in the spotlight, and how having everything just handed to you on a plate isn't what it's cracked up to be, because you also have girls constantly following you around. Like, you can't go to a shop without being hounded by press, and it's a really good look into that world that you don't really consider when you see your favourite bands or celebrities or whatever. You don't really, a lot of the time, you don't think of them as people. You kind of almost, they kind of almost become commodities. So like, you see your band and you hear the music that they make and you watch their interviews and their performances and stuff. And a lot of the time, people don't consider the fact that they have lives outside of this job. Like, for them, this is their job and they have a life outside of this world. I Was Born for This does a really good job of kind of helping you realise that fame and like constantly being in the spotlight can have such a massive effect on your mental health and just your general well-being. And it also explores things like alcoholism, and yeah, it's just such a good insight into what could happen if you do have a life in the spotlight. I think Alice Oseman has done a really good job with researching and kind of getting really deep into the heads of this band. Like, they're all still teenagers and they have never had a normal childhood. Like, they started posting songs on YouTube when they were like 14, so they've never had like a normal sort of teenage hood. They haven't had like the normal teenage experience, and it's all about how they feel like they've just missed out on having a normal teenage life and how that affects them now that they are kind of becoming world famous. On the flip side, it's also really good at getting into the head of Angel and other fans of the band and seeing how it kind of, you get a really good balanced view of the fans and like fandom culture versus the actual band themselves. So you can kind of identify with both sides. You can kind of sympathise with both sides. So you see Angel and she's kind of confused why, like, you have fans telling the band that they love them and they're just like, you don't love us, you don't know what that means. You can kind of see both sides of it. Like, as someone who has been a fan of a lot of things since I was a teenager, but especially a band. So McFly were my band, and they still are, that I have always followed since I was a young teenager, even younger than a teenager. I think I was maybe 11 when I started really liking McFly, and me and my friend Jolie have gone to so many of their concerts and meet and greets, and we will support them in anything they do. I have kind of gone through the whole life cycle of being a McFly fan. So I started out as a kind of young, naive teenager, just following them everywhere and loving everything they do and being like, I love them so much. Like, Dougie, I want to date because he's so hot. I went through that whole stage, the proper teenage band loving fangirl phase. And then because I've grown up still being a fan of McFly, and it sounds cheesy, but I've kind of grown up with them. They were kind of 17 or something when I was about 12, and I've always only been a few years younger than them, so it's kind of been really interesting to almost grow up with them and see them grow up at the same time as I have been growing up. So I completely know what it's like to be a proper fangirl of a band. And so the way that Angel behaves when she thinks about the band, where she gets quite obsessive over them and they're kind of all that she cares about, I know exactly how she feels, because as a teenager I was in exactly the same place where nothing else mattered other than going to see their tour, and if I didn't get to see their tour or buy their album, then the whole world was over. And I think I Was Born for This kind of hit me in the right place, because I know, like I said, I know what it's like to be such a fangirl of a band, but it was also really enlightening to kind of think that that's what a lot of bands might go through. Obviously not all bands and celebrities are the same. Like, a lot of celebrities don't have like a mental illness, they don't go through that, but I'm sure a lot do. And I know McFly have, like, they've opened up a lot in the past couple of years about how when they were younger and they had this they were kind of catapulted to fame, and they started being, when they did Just My Luck, the film with Chris Pine and Lindsay Lohan, they were kind of shot to US fame as well, and then from there they kind of went worldwide. And they've opened up a lot about their mental health and how it was destroying them, like with depression and anxiety and OCD, and they've just been through so many things, and they've only opened up about it recently, because when you are that famous, the management don't want you to talk about those things. They want it to seem like you're this ideal group and that people can look up to you and you're flawless and you don't have any problems, and being in this band is like the best thing in the whole world. And books like I Was Born for This help you see that that isn't the reality. The reality is actually a lot darker, and that being constantly watched by millions of people and being kind of hounded by people, even if you just want to go out into the street, can have such a massive effect on how you are mentally. So yeah, I really loved this book. I liked it a lot. I'm really glad I listened to it as an audiobook, because like I said, the narrator is great. I really love her anyway. Like, I really always enjoy her audiobooks because she's just such a good narrator. It really helped me to kind of get into the story with the narrator reading it to me rather than me reading it. So like I said, I'm currently listening to Radio Silence, so I'll be reviewing that soon, as soon as I've finished it as well, whenever that may be. I'm listening to the audiobook of that as well, so I'm not sure when I'll finish it, but I'm just really enjoying Alice Oseman's books at the moment. She has a style that's just so accessible and so relatable to everyone, and I'm just really enjoying her books. I think I've got a new favourite author, especially because I adore Heartstopper so much. So let me know in the comments if you've read I Was Born for This or any other Alice Oseman books. I'd love to chat about them. Let me know what you thought of I Was Born for This if you've read it, and if you want to see more videos like this or anything else to do with books or sometimes theatre, then click the subscribe button, because that would help me out a heck of a lot. I'm really excited about growing my channel this year, so yeah, clicking the subscribe button would help me out a lot. And if you could give this video a like as well, then that would be great. I will see you on Friday with a new video. Bye!